It was built using talud tablero, which is an architectural style also known as slope and panel. It consists of a platform structure called a tablero on top of an inward sloping surface or panel. It was often employed in pyramid construction and is found in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. This technique is shown in step pyramids such as the Pyramid of the Sun and Moon and Quetzalcoatl in Teotihuacan. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent, after 250 CE, uses the talud tablero construction, which is the hallmark of the Teotihuacan architectural style. The sloping base supports an entablature that rises vertically, surrounded by a frame, and often was filled with sculptural decoration. The temple was enlarged several times and completely encloses the previous sculpture. There are painted reliefs of the feathered serpent and goggle-eyed storm god, and the aquatic shells and snails. A flat, angular, abstract style is typical of art in this period. The storm god has a square, stylized head with protruding lips, huge round eyes originally inlaid with obsidian, and surrounded by once-colored circles, and large circular ear spools. It emerges from a radiant circle of stylized feathers. The portrayal of the storm god is a representation of the alternating wet and dry seasons, or maybe symbols of regeneration and cyclical renewal. It has projecting stone heads and a lower relief carving. It is a stone temple with monumental sculpture and architecture that is reminiscent of powerful sculptures from ancient Near East, Hellenistic, and Gothic art historical periods.
The maguey bloodletting ritual was a fragment of a fresco from Teotihuacan, Mexico, circa 600 to 750 CE. It was pigment on lime plaster. It was very flat, angular, and abstract, and it's now in the Cleveland Museum of Art. There was subtle use of color, with 5 shades of red with touches of ochre, green, and blue. It depicted a bloodletting ritual with an elaborately dressed man impersonating the storm god, who enriches and revitalizes the earth with his own blood. His feathered serpent headdress indicates his high status, and he is adorned with precious quetzal feathers. He stands between rectangular plots of earth planted with bloody maguey spines and scatters seeds or drops of blood from his right hand. It is indicated with the panel of conventionalized symbol of blood, seed, and flowers. There's a speech scroll emerging from his open mouth, which symbolizes his ritual chant. And there is visual weight on the piece according to the headdress and speech scroll, which suggests that the man's priestly office and chanted words are essential elements of the ceremony.
The Mayan culture was located in the areas of Guatemala, Honduras, Belize, and the Yucatan, and was part of the pre-classical era. Mayans were influenced by the Olmec and Teotihuacan cultures and would be known as the most sophisticated and advanced culture of the New World.
The foundations for the Maya culture were laid in the pre-classic era from 400 BCE to 40 CE. Stelae documented the accomplishments of their rulers in monumental commemorative stelae on books, ceramic vessels, and wall paintings. Society was divided into castes, such as the ruler and elite class, who were supported by the farming commoners. Respect for power was sustained through bloodletting and human sacrifice. The Maya abruptly left village life and adopted hierarchical autocratic system. There was a multitude of stone architecture, such as templed, terraced pyramids, tombs, palaces, plazas, ball courts, and residential complexes. They had very advanced time reckoning and had very detailed records of daily life. Though the beginning and end of the Maya culture are obscure, calendar taking was very important and shows a true picture of Maya civilization. It was used for religious purposes and aimed to bring human life into closest possible correspondence with the rhythmic pulse of the living cosmos. Religion allowed access to God, sacrifice, and magical manipulation. It mingled the natural and supernatural, the human and divine rituals with bloodletting and hallucinogenic drugs. Bloodletting allowed rulers and consorts to let their blood out and took drugs and slaughtered captives. They were placed on altars, their hearts were cut out, and bodies were hurled down the steep steps. The captives were then forced to play the cosmic ball game. The God ruler has the highest power. Tikal in Guatemala was 150 miles north of Copan. Irregular groupings were connected by causeways and were not a grid like Teotihuacan or the Great Plaza. They were studded with stela and hieroglyphs. The Temple of the Giant Jaguar was a temple mausoleum of a ruler. It was super steep and was elevated above all other people. It was compelling aesthetic and psychological power of Maya architecture. Because architecture was dominant in Mayan art, sculpture was rarely seen without it. Sculptured stelas were detached panels on walls, and painting was almost always bound to architecture, usually as murals or frescoes. Tikal was the largest classic period Maya city and houses Temple 1 of the Giant Jaguar and has a steep roof supported by corbel vaults. Palenque was in Chiapas and flourished from 100 BCE to 800 CE. Typical classic period sculpture subjects were elite men and women and rulers performing rituals. They favored low relief carving with sharp outlines on flat stones. The ideal beauty was a sloping forehead, elongated skull, and large curved nose. The classic period painting artists had a high status and concentrated on murals and ceramics and chronicled their history in codices.
Temple of the Giant Jaguar was created circa 700 CE. It faces a companion pyramid, and the temple covers the tomb of the ruler Ahasa and his successors. It has a height of around 140 feet, and its base has 9 layers, probably reflecting the belief that the underworld had 9 levels. There are 2 long parallel rooms covered with a steep roof supported by corbel vaults, and there's an entrance on the long side facing the plaza, and the commemorative stela is erected there, and the roof comb was originally covered with brightly painted sculpture.
The Temple of the Inscriptions, 600 to 900 CE, 75 feet tall, is a series of buildings on 2 levels around 3 open courts. It is an administrative rather than a residential complex. Its 9-level shrine has a portico with 5 entrances and a 3-part vaulted inner chamber surmounted by a tall roof comb. It has a stucco facade. Its name came from the inscription on the back wall of the portico. There's a corbelled vaulted stairway beneath the summit shrine, and a stair that leads to a subterranean chamber that housed the tomb of Lord Pakal. The sarcophagus lid is from the tomb of Lord Pakal. It's from 683 CE, made of limestone, 12 feet 6 inches by 7 feet, and of low relief. Pakal is balanced between the spirit world and earth. His knees are bent, feet twisted, and his face, hands, and torso are upraised. He lies on the head of a creature that represents the setting sun. They are falling into the jaws of the underworld's monster. The image above him ends in the profile head of a god and a fantastic bird, and represents the sacred tree of Maya. The sacred tree's roots are in the earth, and its trunk is in the world, and its branches support the celestial bird in the heavens. It's a message of death and rebirth. Lord Pakal will rise again like the rising sun to join the gods after falling into the underworld. Carved on the side are Lord Pakal's ancestors witnessing his death and apotheosis. The elaborate headdresses are shown only from waist up.
Portrait of Lord Pakal was created in the mid-7th century CE and was found in his tomb. It was made of stucco and red paint. It was 16 and 7/8 feet tall, and is a three-dimensional clay and stucco sculpture of a young Lord Pakal. It shows him as a youthful man wearing a diadem of jade and flowers. He has a sloping forehead, elongated skull, large curved nose, full lips, and an open mouth. And all the above are characteristics of the ideal Mayan beauty. And he also has a long, narrow face and jaw, which are individual characteristics, and there's paint pigments found on the portrait.